Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm joined by Tim Zheng from Apollo. At Bain Capital Ventures, we had the pleasure of leading the Series D of Apollo a few years ago, and we're going to talk today about a bunch of lessons that Tim has learned along the way of his founder journey. So Tim, why don't you tell us, for those in the audience who aren't familiar with what Apollo does already, why don't you just share a bit about what is Apollo?
Yeah, hey guys, great to be here. So Apollo, we're an AI sales platform. We have a database of 200 million business contacts, tools to help you email and call them, and AI to help you orchestrate automation. We started about 10 years ago, but it's been a very up and down journey. I think now things are pretty good. We have over 800 employees, over $150 million in revenue, 2 million users, 100,000 customers, sorry, 90,000 paying customers. And our mission is to just democratize go-to-market and make it accessible to everyone. So yeah, I think really great to be here.
Great. And obviously, Tim's come a really long way. He cited the stat of reaching well over 150 million of ARR since founding the company. But Tim, one of my favorite parts about Apollo is you actually stumbled upon the idea for Apollo by building something that you needed at your prior company. Would love to unpack that a little bit. Could you just share how you kind of came into the idea and what the origin story was?
Yeah, so Apollo actually started as kind of a weekend hack project, trying to solve a problem for ourselves. My previous company was in education. We needed a way to reach teachers. So we, on a weekend, indexed all the school websites and built a database of teachers and emailed them. And we went from 5K to 150K users in just 5 weeks. And some friends in other startups started asking me for my help to help them do their go-to-market, but they're selling to IT, HR, et cetera, right? So that was the first spark. But actually commercializing it was very tough initially. We initially started just selling the database, but we were stuck. We got a couple of customers, but we're stuck at maybe $10,000 of ARR for like 4 or 5 months. And then the aha moment came when a lot of these customers we reached out to, they're like, hey, your database is great, but what we really want is whatever tool that you use to email us, because we just want a solution to help us do outbound. And so we pivoted to that, and then that's sort of when product market fit really came. And you can kind of feel it, but for us, it was like, sales cycles dropped to like 7 days, and deal sizes and win rates went way up, and we grew from 300K to $1 million in 10 weeks in YC, and it just sort of the market pulled the product out of us.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's relevant for a lot of founders here in the audience to figure out empirically, how do you know when you have product market fit? So it sounds like for you were able to measure that through a couple of the metrics you saw around sales cycles. That's great. Maybe we could talk next about, along the way, there's no startup is complete without a few near-death experiences, and I think Apollo's no exception to that. And I think yours, Tim, came in 2020. Could you tell us a little bit about what that felt like for you? What did it feel like to come to the brink of, I don't want to use the B word, bankruptcy, but just sort of the brink of existence as a business, and how did you pull the company out of that on the other side?
Yeah, definitely. So the first couple of years of Apollo were pretty smooth, went from $1 to $2 to $5 million of ARR, but then we basically hit a brick wall. We got stuck at 5 million for an entire year, zero growth. At the same time, we were running out of our Series A money. We were down to literally our last 4 months of cash runway. And then at the same time, we were falling further and further behind strategically. We were in this brutally competitive space in sales tech, and there was many players that are much bigger than we were. So every time we built one feature, competitors would build 10, and our win rate started to plummet as well. And at the same time, employee morale was at a rock bottom, and great employees started leaving. So it was just like a crappy situation with no cash, no growth, low morale, strategically falling behind. And so we thought, it's like, wow, we don't do something really drastic, we're basically dead in the water. So to try to solve this, I think first we realized, okay, we got to do a strategic reset. And while we had product market fit, what we realized is we didn't have product market model channel fit. So in other words, our pricing model didn't quite fit our market, which is SMBs. 10K is which is what we charged at the time, was too expensive for SMBs. And then the way we went to market was using all these expensive sales teams, right? Like SDRs to generate pipeline, and AEs to close them, and CSMs to onboard them. But it was very expensive, and we're basically spending 80 cents to acquire spending $1 to acquire 80 cents of revenue. And so we're like, okay, well, we got to do a reset. So we decided let's take our pricing from 10K to $9 a month to make it self-serve, and let's transform our entire go-to-market motion to be fully self-serve, from acquisition all the way to retention, all the way to monetization. So to do that, I think required like a multi-year transformation, right? It's like open heart surgery, and we had like 4 months of cash runway. We couldn't really do that, so we had to like make the very hard decision to like, hey, we got to get to cash flow positive to give us the room to do this. I had to go from 50 employees all the way down to 10 employees. Definitely the most painful and moment of my professional career. But I think on the flip side of that, I feel like something that surprised me is like morale actually improved after the fact. So instead of like 50 employees kind of wandering through the fog, it was a team of 10 committed folks with like high conviction, almost like a Navy SEALs team that just believe in the mission, and we can move much faster from there. And then and then after that, it was like pretty much just like execution, right? It's like we launched our self-serve product. Conversion rates were terrible. For example, our retention rate on our self-serve product was only 4% to begin with. And so we just like systematically optimized that. We're like, hey, what drives retention? We found that people that sent an email, for example, would retain much higher than those that don't. So we just like got more people to send emails, and over a period of 9 months, we got retention from 4 to 40%, and then did the same thing for every single one of our other metrics. And over a period of a couple of years, we were able to essentially resurgitate the company, and not only that, like build the foundation to get Apollo to grow from $5 to $100 million in the next few years.
Mm-hmm. So Tim, just recapping a couple of things we've heard so far. So you started as a top 10 enterprise sales company. You make this transition to PLG. Along the way, you go from very organic market pull, strong product market fit, to being on the brink of running out of cash. So there's a lot that you experienced along the way there. And I'm curious, what advice would you have, reflecting on that experience, for founders in the audience who might be facing similar challenges? And who may be thinking about a business model pivot or what to do if they're running low on cash.
Yeah, I think for us, something I wish I did earlier is like, I feel like when things were going great, things are great, but when things aren't going so great, I feel like I probably could have pulled the trigger a lot sooner. I feel like in my gut, I knew something was wrong, but there was such inertia, and you had an employee, everyone's doing like really hard at work, doing their thing, and didn't want to let them down, but I feel like just trusting your gut, and when something is not working, and sometimes the correct solution is something that's unpleasant, but I feel like the earlier one realizes that, at least for me, that would have been a lot more effective down the line. Mm-hmm. So just maybe trusting one's gut in those cases could be great.
And I think clearly your instincts are right, because you've bounced back incredibly well. And we were lucky enough to come in a few years ago, but I think the momentum has been really strong since then, and you've grown 4x since we made our investment, which we're very happy about. So it would be great to talk a little bit now about what differentiates Apollo in this very competitive, crowded market of sales tech. As an investor, sometimes we'll meet companies, and if we see that there are 10 companies that sort of look alike, solve similar problems in any given area, we might say, it feels crowded, like hard to pick a winner, let's not invest there. And I think Apollo really defied that principle, because you do operate in a crowded market, you have a lot of competitors, and yet you have really exceeded all of them, getting to close to 200 million of ARR, and while others have stalled or sort of plateaued at much lower levels than that. So I'm curious, can you just tell us a little bit about what enabled that to happen? What is it about the product or the organization that you think led you to break through that noise?
Yeah, I think one thing that we try to do is, I read this book somewhere where it's like, in competitive strategy, I think a lot of people compete to win. And what we try to do is almost like compete to be different, not to win, because sales tech is so competitive, so many bigger players. And so at the time, and even now, like everybody's trying to build very powerful but complex point solutions for mostly mid-market enterprise, using sales, go-to-market with sales teams, right? And I think for us, we try to do almost the opposite of every single one of that. So while they zig, we'll try to zag. We would go for all-in-one in SMB with a PLG motion. And so I think basically it's like, how do we carve out a niche in the space where we can really be number one? And sales tech is a huge space, room for many multi-billion-dollar companies, and I think that's like one thing that we try to do that I think served us well in a hyper-competitive space. Mm-hmm. I think second thing is like, once we establish a foothold, we try to keep investing in additional bowling pins or S-curves or whatever you want to call them. When we started in SMB data, then SMB sales engagement, then mid-market data, and then SMB conversation intelligence, and all these like different tools that over a 2-3 year span actually started to expand our TAM, and we're able to build upon our advantages. And then maybe a third thing, something I wish I did a little bit better at, but better late than never, is like try to constantly reinvent myself as well. I think I'm definitely more of an engineer by training, and then became engineer turned salesperson, and then had to build teams and build a machine, which is a company to build the teams, and then now that's going. Now trying to be a change catalyst to take the machine to the next level. And it's almost like if I reflect back, every time the company stalled, it's a little bit because I didn't quite level up myself fast enough. But then so in some ways, like I'm always trying to like get myself better, because I'm pretty much the biggest bottleneck oftentimes in companies' growth as well.
Mm-hmm. Tim, I love that you use the word reinvent, because I really think that is at the heart of Apollo's culture. I think every year, and you've illustrated already in some anecdotes you've shared today, but I get to see it in a more up close, granular level. But I think you've established a culture of reinvention and of continuing to see around corners to figure out how we should adapt for the next chapter. And I'm curious, we couldn't have this discussion without touching on AI, of course. AI is applied to go-to-market and sales is very topical. I'm curious, do you see any viable use cases that are really working for AI in sales today? And what are those? I think this is a topic that's top of mind for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think in sales and marketing, honestly, like even today, AI can do like almost every part of sales and marketing, like maybe 80% of sales and marketing better than humans can. So if you think about like, but just be more specific, right? So in generating pipeline, like AI can find companies, find people, write emails, do research, better than the average, or even make calls, but better than the average rep. And as a result, a lot of our customers, they're able to literally like 5 times the number of meetings that they book with a third of the reps, because AI can help you both increase conversion rates with better presentation, but also it can help you increase the volume with because everything's automated. And then same thing with closing deals, like all the prep work that goes into a great sales rep, that can be all automated. All the post-call follow-ups, that can be automated. And for ops, previously it takes hours to set up a campaign. Now you can just like chat into our interface and it takes a couple minutes. So, and that's just like today. And I feel like the common theme here is it's like 80% of the boring work that goes into sales can really now be completely automated. And just that's already happening today. And so just excited to see what it's going to be like just a couple years from now.
And what does that really mean for Apollo? Clearly, sales is changing end to end. AI will disrupt every single activity within it. How are you positioning Apollo to seize that opportunity, that moment?
Yeah. So, obviously right now we have some agentic capabilities. You can just chat into our app, hey, build me a campaign targeting EMEA IT leaders in fintech or in financial services, and we can do that for you. I think what we're trying to do is go from I think we would call like L3 to like L5 agents. So in self-driving cars, for example, you have L3 automation, which is cruise control or whatever, right? Or like, and then L5 is like full self-driving. So what we want to be able to do is like have a almost VP level agent where you can ask a VP, hey, help me generate $6 million of pipeline in Germany in this segment, and they'll just figure out everything it takes to do that for you. So it's, I think that will be kind of a great holy grail. It's a little bit easier said than done, I think, because I would say like LLMs are already at the point where it's smart enough to do that, but I think what's missing is the integration with all the data from the customer data to all the market data and all the tools and making sure everything's set up in a box. Do think we're probably less than a year and a half away from being able to build that, but that's kind of the holy grail of just literally, hey, AI making you more money in the segment, and it'll literally do that for you. So that's like something that we're working towards, and I think ultimately we want to try to democratize this technology to the masses. So this next gen, like one of the great things about AI is it's not only makes things able to be much more powerful, but it also is a great enabler. Like this technology can, think about something like Lovable, it makes anybody able to be really great engineers, and what we want to do is try to take make even us, anybody from the most advanced companies to even a single founder can spin up a world-class go-to-market in an afternoon. Is sort of the direction that we're trying to head to. Yeah.
For founders listening out there, a potential tech stack you could consider is Lovable to build your product, Apollo to sell your product. I think that'd be Good place to go. So Tim, I think we're going to move into a lightning round, and I'll ask you a few quick questions, get your take on a few hot topics. The first is, what's your personal AI productivity hack?
I think, so I need to write a lot, but I'm not a very good writer. So what I like to do is just like dump some chicken scratch notes into an LLM, or better yet, a couple LLMs, and just like have them critique each other. And basically in a couple minutes, you get like a really great investment memo, a really great, that's like better than anything I could have written. So yeah, I think that's really great. Yeah, you could probably use that in your Monday morning investment committee meetings as well. But yeah.
I love that. No, that's great. We don't have to do any more work anymore if the machines are writing all our investment committee memos. Maybe next question. When do you think, I know this is a topic that comes up a lot and there are a lot of entrants in this space. When do you think the AI SDR will really happen?
Yeah, I think my hot take on this is like it's already here in the sense of like we already have customers that are already automating like 90% of their SDR work and doing better than the average rep, right? But I think the issue is that it's still a little bit challenging to set everything up, and it's not like push button easy right now. So I think that once it's push button easy, which is kind of what we're trying to get to, then adoption will go vertical. And so I do think in like a couple of years, that will happen. And then once that happens, just everyone's going to be using it. So right now, maybe adoption is like, it already exists, but only maybe 0.1% of people are using it. I do think in a couple of years, it's going to be like 99%. Once, but like the ease of use, I think is going to be the big key.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. LLMs worth $1 trillion or zero?
I think it's probably going to be worth more close to $1 trillion. I think on the one hand, you have open source models that are 90% of the performance for 10% of the cost. You have models from China that are similar. But I think all these startups are still using the closed source models from the leading LLM companies, just because they're like 10% better. And I think if you think about like why, my personal take is like, the ROI of these LLMs is so huge because you're basically replacing human labor, and it's like, who cares about an extra $1,000 of token cost when your comparable is a $200,000 employee? And so if you're able to do it better, then yeah, like it's like a no-brainer ROI. So yeah, I would say like probably closer to $1 trillion, which does mean I think for the rest of us though, because there's so much economic value that is potentially to be generated, the ecosystem around the LLMs is like at least the order of magnitude more. And so yeah, it's definitely a very exciting time to be building in tech and AI in particular.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Final one. What's one AI assumption that people are making today that you think will be proven wrong in a year's time?
I think there's all this. I was reading an article even yesterday in The Economist on like how the latest generation is kind of screwed because there's no more jobs. All the entry-level jobs are going to be replaced by AI. I actually think it's a little bit of the opposite because we hire a good amount of entry-level college grads, and what we've seen is they basically grew up in college like using ChatGPT to do everything, right? Write their essays, to do all their homework and whatever, right? So they're almost like AI native, and they actually are better at a lot of this stuff than some of our super seasoned employees. And if you think about like the skill sets that are needed, so I think Apollo, we're basically like trying to, if we do our job well, entire job function, like the sales development rep, is going to be wiped out. But it's going to be replaced with a different kind of job, which is like folks that can tune AI prompts and try to build AI systems, and I think it's a great thing. Like honestly, SDR is not the most fun job, but I think it's much more interesting to be able to build systems of agents, and I think some of these like new college kids are really, really good at that, better than any of us. So yeah, just actually very excited for what's to come. I think we live in a super, super exciting time, and so much is changing, and yeah, couldn't no better time to be a startup founder than today, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to hear your uplifting narrative. Sometimes the headlines are a little bit bleak when it comes to labor replacement with AI. So thank you for sharing that, Tim. I think that's a great note to end on. It was a pleasure chatting, and we look forward to seeing everyone later today.
Yeah, thanks.